To successfully perform HR analytics and have it impact the organization, you need more than just data analytics skills. You have to focus on the right problems. You should ensure that your insights impact the business, and you must know what outcomes actually make sense, and lastly, you must understand the data system and structures.
Welcome to HR Analytics Skills. What skills do you need in order to start with HR Analytics? And we'll talk about these skills one by one. The first is the business skill set, second is marketing skills, third is human resource management skills, fourth is data analytics skills, and lastly we have IT, information technology skills. The first skill set that you need are business skills. And three examples of these are understanding business challenges, understanding the key business processes going on in your specific business, and expertise in connecting HR to strategic company goals. And you might ask, why are these business skills so important? Well, for two reasons. First of all, in order to implement HR analytics in a company, and that's something we'll talk about later, you need to build alliances, strategic alliances within the company, and you need to manage multiple stakeholders. And in order to do it, the business skill set is really, really important. And secondly, as you'll read for this week in the article of Rasmussen and Ulrich from 2005, in order to really add value as HR analytics, you need to tackle a business problem. Because if you solve something with an academic mindset, as they call it in their article, that doesn't really fix a business problem, you run the risk of becoming a management fad, a short-lived craze which is interesting but doesn't really add value. So in order to add value, you need to understand the business challenge and know the top 3 priorities that the CEO is facing, because if you can solve them, those priorities using HR analytics, you really add value with your HR analytics department. So that's the first skill set that you really need, the business skill set. The second skill set is the marketing skill set. In our book we call it the marketing skill set, some other writers call it the consultant skill set, and it has all to do with understanding how data will be used by the business. So basically, what data is the business looking for and what data can really help the business improve. And on the other hand, you also have the visualization and the selling of your insights part. What you want to do is you want to market your HR analytics department, especially at the beginning, because it provides interesting insights and it provides insights that the manager can actually use, but you need to sell it to the manager. And that's where the marketing skill set really comes in. A final thing that's really important, that relates to the previous point, is that when you start with HR analytics, you really want to tackle an actionable business problem. For example, you can predict that age is related to employee turnover, but does that really help managers to run the business better? For example, can they lower the age of their employees in order to retain them? That's quite hard, so you really want to look for actionable insights. And that's also the consultant or marketing skill set, that you understand how data will be used by the business and how the business can capitalize on the data that you're working with. The third skill set are HR skills. For example, if you want to do turnover analytics, and that's my favorite example, a few years ago 2 meta-studies were done and they analyzed 40 or 50 different factors that actually drive employee turnover. So if you can take those factors and relate them to your employee database and see which information you actually have, you can really quickly build a solid model that can actually predict employee turnover. That's where the HR skills comes in really handy. On the one hand, to have a scientific background in social sciences, for example, psychology or sociology, and on the other hand, you also want to have insight in existing HR processes. Why? Because it's really good to know how employee performance is rated and how it's rated in different countries. Because if you start to analyze the data, that kind of insight will really help you on the one hand interpret the data and on the other hand also check the reliability and the validity of data. And finally, it's really good to have the HR skill set because you need to find a bridge between traditional HR, the HR business partner that really doesn't know how to work with data, and people analytics expertise. This connection is best made by someone who on the one hand understands HR, traditional HR, and on the other hand really understands people analytics. Those are the 3 main reasons why HR skills are really important. The fourth skill set is data analytics. you would like someone in your team that can analyze data. And a few things are important. First of all, the person should understand statistics, because most of the analysis you do are statistical analysis. So someone with a solid understanding of statistics, what analysis you can do, what the sample sizes should be, how many people you need in one data set in order to have reliable results. That is really vital knowledge in order to do the right analysis. Because you can have the right data, but if you do a bad analysis, your outcomes will be absolutely false. And second, and that's in line with the first point, you want someone in your team who understands different data analytics methods. For example, you can predict turnover by making a black box. And those are the trading algorithms they also use at the stock market. It's very accurate, but you have no clue how it works. That's one approach. And that algorithm can really accurately predict the likelihood of someone leaving. You can also use a regression analysis. The thing is that a regression analysis would be way more useful because you can identify all the factors that drive people away from your company, that drive people to quit. And by identifying all those different factors, you can take appropriate action. You can communicate them to the manager and you can say, hey, travel distance is a factor, so watch out for person A, B and C. And age is a factor, so take extra care of these people. And etc, etc. So depending on the data analysis method you choose, you get different outcomes and different data. If your objective is to very accurately predict who's going to leave your company, you want a different algorithm than when you want to, for example, predict the factors that drive people to go away. And that second question actually yields way more tangible information. That goes also back to the previous point. Be really aware of what question you're asking yourself, because the kind of question you're asking yourself also influences the data you'll get. So, to bring it back to the main point, that's why having a statistician on board is really important, because it will really help you in analyzing the data and coming up with the right outcomes. And finally, you want the person with data analytics skills also to have some experience in working with data analytics and visualization tools, like Microsoft Excel, SPSS, R, Python, etc. And especially R is often used. R is a language and environment for statistical computing and graphics, and it enables you to analyze really large quantities of data really quickly. It also helps you to visualize it, and R has multiple libraries that you can freely download, and they enable you to do all kinds of analysis and data visualization. And on top of that, R is open source, so R is totally free to use. The last skill set are information technology skills. As we saw in the previous video, HR Analytics uses IT to collect, to analyze and to report data. So IT skills are important, and especially understanding the business IT structure. For example, if you want to relate the engagement of personnel in a store with revenue in a store, you need 3 data sets. First of all, you need the engagement data. Second of all, you need personnel data with demographic variables, for example age with gender, etc. And third, you need the revenue numbers. All that data comes from different systems, so understanding the business IT structure is really important, because that will help you in extracting the different data sets from the different systems. And the last thing is knowledge of data security. That's vital, because you're working with personnel data, which is usually qualified as very sensitive. You don't want your data and the data of your personnel leaked on the streets, because that will be really bad PR and probably the end of the HR Analytics department. So that's the final part that's really important. Make sure your data is secured and make sure that you have the expertise to really handle your data well, so it decreases the chance of data leaks. So, what happens if one skill set is missing? If the business skill set is missing, the team commits to analyses which add no value to the business. And that's what we talked about with Ulrich and Rasmussen. It runs the risk of being a management fad. Second, if HR Analytics misses the consultancy and the marketing skill set, it fails to be adopted by the business. Managers don't act on the data because HR Analytics or the HR Analytics department is unable to sell the data to the right target audience. If the HR skill set is missing, the team struggles to select the right data, interpret outcomes, and build valid models. Because in the end, and that's what they also found at Google, you want to build models based on literature, because going back to the literature always makes things way easier. What happens if you miss data analytics skills? At that point, and you see it happen at a lot of organizations, teams get stuck running simple analyses, but they fail to find cause and effect relationships. And you see it happen at a lot of HR departments. They get their operational reporting on point, but from that point on, once they need to start correlating, doing regression analysis and cause and effect relations, benchmarking, they are stuck because they just don't have the skill set to do that. So if you don't have the data analytics skills, you'll get stuck at some point and you just won't be able to advance further. And lastly, if you don't have the IT skills, the team will struggle to obtain and aggregate all the relevant data, so there will be a hassle and you'll be thoroughly slowed down. This is a model made by Morten Kamp Andersen that he put in a blog in 2016. And he said that a superhero workforce analytics team must have certain skill sets. So you must have good data, you must be good at storytelling, you must have business acumen, the business skill set, you must master the techniques of visualization, the marketing skill set, you must have strong psychology skills, the HR skill set, and you must master numbers and statistics, the data analytics skill set. And he says, if you miss good data, you'll be unable to perform analytics. If you're not good at storytelling, you'll be unable to get your message across. If you don't have the business acumen, you focus on the wrong problem and you actually run the risk of being a management fat. In line with missing good storytelling, if you don't master the techniques of good visualization, you'll generate boring and confusing output, and again, you'll be unable to get your message across. If you don't have psychology skills, you'll be biased and unable to understand results, and also be unable to build really solid models. And if you don't master the numbers and statistics, you end up having poor analyses. So this is a nice overview in line with what we previously told you, that shows you like, hey, what if you miss one skill set and what happens in the end afterwards? And I'll link to the blog in which he wrote this in the course material. So big question is, are all skills equal? And no, they are not. So in the first phase, when you start to implement HR, your business and marketing acumen is going to be important, because you need to create a foothold for HR analytics to really fit in, and you need to build alliances in order to get the HR analytics department running. Secondly, when you get to the point where you want to get your operational reporting on point, you need to understand IT, HR, and you need to be able to do basic statistics that can provide early wins. You don't need to understand predictive modeling yet. You don't need to understand cause and effect relationships yet. You just need to get your data reporting right. So that's understanding where your data is coming from, being able to put it in a dashboard, understanding what HR is doing, and just some basic knowledge of numbers. And for your advanced analytics phase, you need really solid IT skills and really solid data analytics skills. At that point where you're going to make predictive models that can actually predict which employees are likely to leave your company. So at that phase, you really need to have all the skill sets, and especially the data analytics skill sets, which you didn't really need previously. This was quite a comprehensive overview of all the skill sets that you need in order to apply HR analytics in a company.